Welcome to the Drop Mixing Masterclass for beginner DJs. This video will be covering a wide range of genres and going over plenty of examples to get you ready for drop mixing like a pro. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy as we teach you everything you need to know about drop mixing.
Yo guys, how's it going? So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to set cues for drop mixing. And so I'm going to be showing you where I set my hot cues for the drop mixing, how to use those hot cues when starting to drop mix in and beat matching it all, and just rounding that all into an example that I'll show you in the end. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Now before the video starts, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below what other tutorials you guys want to see. Alright, so I have my first track loaded up. It's Ring the Alarm. This is what the drop sounds like. That's my first track that I'm going to be playing, and then the second track that I'm going to be drop mixing into this one is called Speechless by Promised Lands. Yeah, so you guys get the gist. Anyways, so for this track, where you want to set your hot cues for drop mixing is right where the build-up starts. For setting hot cues on the second track and just any track in general that you want to be drop mixing is to set the hot cue at the build-up part. Now, I've made a video previously on where to actually set hot cues during your entire track. If you followed that video already, you'll know where to set the track, but if you haven't checked out that video, make sure to check it out up in the corner. But anyways, so you have to put the hot cue, align it to the start of the build-up for whatever track that you're gonna be drop mixing into. So for me, it's this part in here, and for the hot cue, I'll have it at B. That's where your build-up hot cue should be if you follow the structure of the last video that I posted. But anyways, this is what it sounds like. And so it leads up like this. So yeah, I have my hot cue set to the build-up of it, and so the next thing to do is to have both of them at the same BPM. So my first track is at 128 and my second one is at 126, and I bumped it up to 128 now. So they're both at the same BPM, 128. Basically the structure of it is gonna be that I'm gonna let the break play of the first track, and then when the build-up is coming up, I'm gonna start queuing up my build-up of the second track, and then once my build-up of the first track comes along, then I'm gonna press play on my second track so that both build-ups are going at the same time, and then from there in my headphones I'm just gonna beat match it, make sure they're aligned, bring up the volume of my second track coming in, and then from there muting it to let the drop vocal play out of the first track, and then switching it, or I can increase the volume, and then just for the drop vocals to play for the second track, I can let the vocals play for the second track and just mute the first track, so that works as well. It's whatever method you want to use, whatever vocals you want to let the crowd hear. So anyways, let's just get right into this example. Start beat matching or queuing up. Basically, that was just a quick example of what that looked like. So what I did there was I had my first track playing, and then when I saw the build-up was coming up, I started to tap my cue button for the build-up of my second track. When I saw that the build-up was coming, I timed it, I had both of the build-ups playing at the same time. From there in my headphones, I beat mashed it together. so that they're both aligned. And then I just brought up the volume of my second track from there, and then I let the vocals of my second track play out. So that's basically it. Where you want to have your hot cue set up, again, is at the build-up of whatever track. But if you guys haven't checked out the video of where I set my hot cues, check it up in the icon up above in the corner. Check out that video so you guys know where to set up your hot cues. But yeah, anyways, that's where you want to set up your hot cues. And that's where you want to start beat matching from in order to line up the drop mixes. So you have to make sure that both tracks are house tracks, that they have the same sort of structure and progression in them. So for example, if this has an 8-bar buildup, then I want my second track to have an 8-bar buildup as well. If it has maybe like a 12 or a 16-bar buildup, then it wouldn't really work unless I just kind of improvised it in a way and queued it up later. Yeah, so anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's just a really quick tutorial on where to set the hot cues for drop mixing. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what kind of other tutorials you want to see in the future. So, peace. Yo guys, so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to drop mix. So basically, if you don't know what drop mixing is, it's when the buildup of one track kind of fades into the build-up and the eventual drop of the second track. Now, a lot of big-name DJs do this, like Martin Garrix is probably the most famous one that you can think of that does this kind of technique when he DJs. Others like Jay Hardway, Don Diablo, they all do this kind of technique just to spice up things in their mix and to give the crowd something unexpected. So today I'm going to teach you how to do that with 2 tracks on my Pioneer. So let's do it. So basically, drop mixing consists of going from the buildup of one track into the buildup of the next one. It's really simple to do. Basically, you just have to set cue points on the start of the buildup of your second track, just so you can basically hit the cue button and not worry about mixing so much. So basically, you can do this even without headphones. And that's why it's so simple, and that's why so many DJs do it when they're playing live. So let's get straight into this. So we're going to be going from the drop of Calcutta to Show Me. So yeah, let's start this up. So yeah, that was fairly simple. We went from the drop of, and the build-up, sorry, of one track, and then we cued the second build-up, which was the other track. We slid up the fader, the volume for the second track, and eventually we could hear both tracks at one point, and the beats were a little bit off, so I corrected it by spinning the jog wheel, and then I let the vocal for Calcutta play, and then I quickly switched back to the drop of Show Me. And then eventually after the drop of the first one, Show Me goes back into a second drop, and Calcutta has a pretty cool kind of, you know, wobbly break, and so I incorporated that into the buildup of the second one. So yeah, you can do just fun things and play around. A lot of artists, they do this for especially dubstep sets and these kinds of things, but this is definitely something that will get the crowd going, and it's something that's unexpected and you can incorporate easily into all your sets. So yeah, if you guys want to see any other tutorials, let me know in the comments down below, and hope you guys enjoyed. So yeah, peace. Alright guys, so welcome back to another tutorial. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about how to drop mix dubstep music. So the 2 tracks that I'm going to be using to show you this technique are Peekaboo and GARRIX. Bubba Tunda? Yeah, Bubba Tunda, and then it's the Tynan remix, and then the second one is Bad Rapper and Avant's Mild Drugs. So they're both at 145 BPM, which means that don't have to do anything to adjust the pitch, tempo, we can start mixing it right away. Now I have my cue points set for all my tracks, so all my hot cues are full and they're at, you know, where they need to be for drop mixing. So if you guys haven't checked out my video on where to set hot cues for drop mixing, make sure to check it out out either in the corner or down in the description. Check out that video, find out where to actually set your hot cues, and either set your hot cues just for mixing or for drop mixing in specific. So I'm going to be starting from the sort of build up from one track. So I'm going to be going from Peekaboo and GARRIX to the Bad Rapper Mild Drugs track. And yeah, the whole technique basically that I'm going to be doing is gonna have the build up playing, and while the build up is starting, gonna be queuing up my second track, having both of the build ups kind of play together, because you know I'm gonna be beat matching them together, and then right when the drop hits, switch the two drops and give the crowd something, you know, unexpected with this whole mixing technique. So let's start with this first track. I'm just gonna filter it in, and I'm gonna show you guys once, and then we're gonna go from there. Now before we start the video, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, comment, and if you guys want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure to check out the link below in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into this. Yeah, so basically that was the whole idea behind it. So what I did there was I had the kind of break leading up into the build up start playing on my first track, and then once I had the build up start playing, I pressed the second track, they started playing together, and then I kind of started leading up my second track into the mix, so a little bit lightly, so the crowd could hear that there's something coming up. You don't need to necessarily do this if you don't want to, but you know, if you want to kind of bring it up, see if it's beat matched, then that's a good idea. So either in your headphones you can hear it if it's beat matched, or if you want to kind of bring it up, have the two tracks playing, kind of raise the energy level a little bit, tease the crowd that there's something, you know, like coming into the mix. That's totally cool. Or if you just want to have one build up playing, beat match it in your headphones, so you know, not let it play out to the crowd, and then right when the drop comes, switch the two tracks. So I'll just show you that, guys, that right now. Yeah, so basically that was the idea behind it. So only one track played until I drop switched it. You don't need to, again, necessarily bring in the second track if you don't want to, but you can, it's up to your own preference. Kind of going over the whole idea as a whole, you want to make sure that you have your cue points set in order to be able to drop mix. Make it a lot easier for yourself. Then you want to have your timing properly, so you match up both of the build-ups together properly. Then once those are going and they're beat matched together, you want to have the right timing in order to actually successfully carry out a drop switch. So you want to know where to actually drop switch it from. So it's after 4 beats. So after that 4 beat fill right in between the build-up and the drop, in that point you want to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you switch it. So counting to a beat of 4 and then switching it really fast. So having confidence in the right moment where you need to drop switch and switching it, because timing is pretty much everything in these sorts of techniques, where you want to have your volume faders switch at a rapid pace so that one track isn't dragging out longer than the other, you know, because then it'll sound terrible. And also you want to actually switch it at the right moment, because if you do it too slowly or too quickly, you'll either miss the beat or you'll, you know, mash the two tracks together and, you know, it won't sound good in your mix. That being said, this is basically the whole technique behind this. So if you guys want to practice this on your own, I highly encourage you guys to check out the 2 tracks that I'm using today and try it out for yourself. You guys can use any dubstep track that you want, but yeah, learn to set your cue points and do all those sorts of things, and then just have fun with drop mixing. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, share. If you guys want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure you check the link out in the description or in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another tutorial. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to drop mix trap music. This is a part 2 to my previous video that I did. So the tracks that I'm going to be using is, the first one is RL Grime, Skrillex, What's So Not Waiting, and then the second track is Zed's Dead and Jaws Let's Go. So I'll link both of those down in the description below so you guys can check out those tracks. But essentially, I'm going to be drop mixing, and so for my first track, I'm going to be going from the RL Grime, What's So Not Skrillex track into the drop of my Zed's Dead and Jaws track. So I'm going to be having my cue points set at the build-ups and the drops. So for my first track, on my platter A, I have the RL Grime, What's So Not Skrillex track, and I have the cue point set to the build-up, as you guys can hear. Yeah, so I'm going to be starting it just before the actual build-up, just so I have enough time to, you know, beat match my Zed's Dead and Jaws track, which is over on platter 2. Now this track, it also has my cue points set at the build-up, the drop, whatever, but I'm going to be cueing it from the first build-up. That's the kind of layout that I have right now. Both tracks are at 80 BPM, so that means that I don't have to, you know, move the pitch, tempo or anything, or you know, essentially kind of change any of the tempo for any of them, so I'm perfect to go for mixing right away. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having my first track play. On the build-up, I will cue my second track in, beat match them together, bring up my second track, and then once the kind of fill little vocal break comes in, I'll throw down my volume for my second track, and then right when the drop hits, I will switch it and let the drop play out for the Zed's Dead and Jaws track. Before we get into this video, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, comment, and if you guys want one-on-one DJ lessons with me, the link is in the description below. But without further ado, let's get right into this. So I'm just going to be going over it once without kind of talking over it, so you guys can see what's happening, and then I'll explain it, and then I'll go over an example where I kind of lead you through what's going on in my head. So let's get started with this one. Yeah, so essentially that was kind of the idea behind it. So what you guys saw me do there was essentially just bring up the second track, kind of have that vocal play in, and then drop mix it after the kind of vocal fill. Now there's two ways of kind of doing this whole build-up thing. So one thing is I could have had only my RL Grime Skrillex track playing for the entire build-up, so I would just have the crowd hear that, and then at the last moment I'd drop switch it into my next track. Or I could have done what I did just in that little kind of instruction part right there, where I brought in my second track little by little, just so the crowd could hear what's coming into the mix. But both ways are basically up to your discretion, whatever you want to do. Sometimes it's cool to let the vocals play. So my first track doesn't have any vocals except sort of kind of like a vocal loop, which is really toned down. You can't really hear it. But my second track has that vocal playing, which I'll show you guys right here. So this is a really cool part to lay over. That's why I chose to basically kind of let it play out in the mix. Yeah, so you guys could hear that vocal playing out. Now, what I did was just layer it, tease it to the crowd, but you can do either or, make the crowd get super kind of bring in a big surprise of the second track coming in for the drop switch, or just have the second track being kind of teased and then eventually switch it into the drop. But both ways work. So what I'm going to be doing now is just going to be leading you through a second time, but I'm going to be kind of talking over, you know, what is going on in my head while I'm doing this. So I have my first track playing, the build-up's coming, and I have it queued up. Played, both of them are lined up, bringing it up so that you can hear it, lowering, a switch. Yeah, so as you guys kind of saw there, I brought it up, and then at the last kind of vocal moment, I switched the two drops. But yeah, this works with a variety of different, you know, trap tracks. You just have to make sure that they're in the same BPM when you're trying to drop mix them. Have your cue points set. So if you guys don't know where to set your cue points, make sure you check out my video on how to set cue points. I'll put it up in the corner or down in the description. You guys can check out that video and see where to set your cue points for drop mixing. And then after that, having your timing right, and then drop switching and having the timing for that right as well. Those are important. Make sure you guys play around with a bunch of different tracks, see what works, make sure they're in key as well, so you know it doesn't sound off key when you switch the drop, because that's one of the worst things. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, and if you guys want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure you check it out down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Today is going to be a tutorial on how to mix trap music. Now, there's not a lot of tutorials on YouTube, so I thought I'd be kind of like the first one to show everyone how to mix trap into each other. And it's actually quite simple. It's all about the timing. And just because, you know, most trap tracks don't have the same kind of intros or the same structure to the intro, doesn't mean that they're any different to mix than, say, house music. So yeah, let's get straight into the tutorial. So I'm going to be using Felmax, Parallax, and Aliens Alchemy, a remix of it, for the mixing. I'll link them down below so you guys can use them to practice this tutorial. But yeah, so the first track is 150 BPM, and the second track is 145 BPM. So I bumped it up to 150 BPM to match the, you know, both tempos, so I can mix them into each other. And both of these tracks are in the same key, so it's going to be easy to mix, and there's not going to be any dissonance between the two tracks. So starting off with the first track and mixing it in with the second track. So usually when you start mixing in a trap track, you want to feel the rhythm of the first track, and you can do this just by tapping the cue button, getting a feel for the second track and how you're going to mix it in. And usually, just like house music, you want to mix it in after 16 bars if it's for the second, you know, second drop or the first drop. It doesn't really matter, but for this one, you mix it after 16 beats. So yeah, let's do this.
that was mixing in Parallax into Alchemy. So that was fairly simple. It was just all about the timing. So I lined up the first track with the kind of intro beat, and I waited 16 bars, and I counted in kind of like a 4-bar period before I pressed the Q button to make sure I was on point. And then while holding on to the Q button, I pressed the play button. So when I released like both fingers, the track would keep on playing. Because if you only press the Q button and you release it, it goes back to the start. So whenever you do that, make sure you hit the Q button, and then while still holding onto the Q button, you press the play button. So mixing that was fairly simple. I slowly pitched up the fader and made sure the tracks were aligned. And I'm doing this without headphones because it's super, super easy. And so I started moving up the fader. I turned down the low frequency so that the kind of the bass and the kick wouldn't, you know, mash up together. And I slowly brought it in, and then I've kind of brought in the low frequencies of the second track, which you can do, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can just keep it on the first track and keep this one the track that you're mixing in. You can keep the low frequencies out of it until you finally mix in that second track, and then you can, you know, bump it back up. So because the first track had a snare roll going up, I kind of filtered out the snare roll just so it would be in the high frequencies while you could hear the second track in the low frequencies. And then once it was kind of finished with the snare roll and almost a drop, I turned down the fader and the volume for the first track, and then it went straight into the break and the eventual buildup of the second track. So that's pretty much it. And the main thing that pretty much defines trap and how to mix it is just the timing of it and the key. So most tracks that, you know, are trap tracks are usually 150 BPM or 75 or 80, somewhere around there. So the easiest way that you can mix two tracks is by obviously getting them into the same tempo, which these two are at 150. But also you can mix a track that's 150 into 75 because that's just half time. So that it would look, and you would mix it in the exact same, but the second track, it would just take a bit longer to get, you know, transitioned into. And sometimes the kicks and all those sorts of things are different, but it still works the exact same. So any tracks that you can basically slice in half for the tempo can be mixed into the one of its double time. So 150 into 75, 160 into 80, and, you know, so on and so forth. So I'll just do an example of a track that's 75 BPM and that I can mix into the Parallax track. Alright, so I found a second track. So this one is Arc by Shipwreck and Zookeepers, and it is 75 BPM, as you can see right there. And I'm going to be still mixing it into Parallax. So the technique is the exact same. So you mix it in after 16 beats, and you just go with the flow, you listen in, and you can filter, you can put in the low frequencies out, do whatever you want. So yeah, let's get into this. So the technique for that was actually super simple, and it was the exact same as the other track. So the intro is quite melodic, so mixing it in straight away and just flipping up the volume or the fader for it would not be wise, because then it would just create a difference in kind of, you know, keys and frequencies and stuff like that. So I kind of moved it up really slowly so that, you know, you could hear an underlying tone of what the melody and the kind of atmosphere is going to be in the second track. And then right about here, when the track has this kind of big impact, that's when I brought it up all the way, and I brought up the low frequencies for it, so you could really kind of hear the second track. And then when this one was doing a snare roll, I also filtered it out so it'd be only in the high frequencies, since this track is mostly based in the mid and low frequencies. And so that would kind of combine it to be in one kind of, you know, unison. So then after the kind of drop sound, I pitched down the volume of the first track and kept everything the same on the second track, because that's when it went into the break and then the build up and the drop. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this quick trap mixing tutorial. If you guys want some more, make sure to let me know down below, and I'll gladly make some more. So yeah, thumbs up this video, share it around, subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, peace.